Today we're talking about why Jesus revolted against God, that he's not the Son of God, as we explore a banned Gnostic text called On the Origin of the World that describes the events of creation prior to what occurs in the Bible. And we're also taking a look at another banned Gnostic text, the Gospel of Judas, both of which reveal Christ's true intentions, which are completely different from what you've read in the Bible and what is promoted by the church. It's going to be very good, to say the least. Now, we're going to get started right away. Just remember, please hit like and subscribe. It helps out a lot. Also, if you enjoy my work, consider supporting on Patreon or becoming a member by hitting the join button below here on YouTube. If you join on Patreon, you get access to all of our members-only videos and a new members-only video every single week. If you join tier 2 or higher, you also get that on YouTube. Beware of scammers in the comments. There are people pretending to be me, saying to join my WhatsApp, join my Telegram. They're DMing people on different platforms, whatever. That's not me. Don't fall for it and ignore it. Run away. Also, there are a lot of people and groups out there who don't like what we're doing, and some of them are spreading a lot of misinformation and disinformation about me and our group and what we do. So just be on the lookout. Use your head, use logic, use reason. Don't fall for the BS. All right. Let's begin. Why Jesus revolted against God. So we've been taking a look at this banned Gnostic text called On the Origin of the World. And it, like I said in the intro, it describes the events that occurred before creation in the Bible. And we've been reading this and going through it. And if you haven't seen those other parts, the previous parts, that's okay. You don't have to understand what's going on. But if you enjoy what we're talking about, I highly recommend that you go check it out, because there's been a lot of interesting themes and narratives that are great. So really quick, to give you a quick summary, if you are new, this is, like I said, a banned Gnostic text on the origin of the world. And it describes the fact that the God of the Bible is actually not a good or loving being, but is an evil being born in shadow, born in darkness, and is trapping humans on earth. So according to On the Origin of the World, there is a realm of light and a realm of darkness. And the realm of light is much higher and more powerful than the realm of darkness. And the realm of darkness is ruled by the God of the Bible. And the earth is in this realm of darkness. And the God of the Bible traps souls from the realm of light in bodies. And the reason why he's doing this is because what we are as souls are actually more powerful than the God of the Bible. And the God of the Bible is absolutely terrified of us, these beings of light, and so has manufactured these bodies to trap us, and has devised all these kinds of tactics to try and trap us in bodies, to distract us, to get us to forget what we are, etc. So this is what we need to know, what's being set up here, where we're going to talk about Jesus and Christ's true intentions. So we're coming to this from the idea that the earth is actually, and bodies are actually prisons, that we are divine beings in these bodies, and that the God of the Bible and his angels are actually evil beings known as archons, or rulers. And the God of the Bible's name is Yaldabaoth, the head archon, or chief ruler. We're also going to take a little bit of a peek at the Gospel of Judas, but we won't get to that for now. So where we left off last time is, did we read this part? Error and ignorance enter into human history. I'm trying to remember. I don't think we did. Okay, so here's the idea. Yes, okay, I remember. So where we left off last time, it was describing that there's different types of humans: the hylics, the psychics, and the pneumatics. The hylics are those who have no idea what they are. They're just material. They're just aware of their material bodies. They're, like your average everyday person who doesn't question anything. They just go to work, live a 9-to-5, and live out their life in a very prepackaged way. They don't really think about themselves or reality or existence or whatever. These are called hylics and are associated with matter. Then you have the psychics, which are associated with the psyche, psychic meaning mind, psyche, soul, mind, not having to do with telepathy or anything paranormal. Psychic just means psyche. And these are the people who have begun to use their mind and reflect and think about themselves and think about existence, but not to the level where they understand what's really going on. That's where you get to the pneumatics. Pneumatics coming from the word pneuma, meaning breath or life or soul. And these soulful ones are the ones who have looked within and realized what they are, and they realize that they are divine beings, divine souls. So you have the hylics, which are material, you have the psychics, which are of the mind, and then the pneumatics, which are the soulful individuals. So you have the three different types of humans representing different levels of consciousness, which is really cool to see in ancient books like this, basically them laying out different levels of consciousness, which is pretty cool for the time that it was written in and the domination of mythos and stories to talk about these levels of consciousness. Very, very cool. So they were talking about this. Now we get to the section where error and ignorance enter human history. And Jesus is going to come into this. Don't worry, but we have to lay out the groundwork here. So the rulers, it says, let us come back to the rulers of whom we spoke, that we might present an explanation of them. So now we're talking about God and his angels, or this evil, demonic, satanic being and his demonic forces, the archons. It says, for when the seven rulers were cast from their heavens down upon the earth, they created for themselves angels, many demonic angels to serve them. But these demons taught humankind many errors with magic and potions and idolatry and shedding of blood and altars and temples and sacrifices and libations to all the demons of the earth, having as their co-worker Fate, who came into being according to the agreement by the gods of injustice and justice. And thus when the world came into being, it wandered astray in distraction throughout all time. So you have this idea now where Yaldabaoth has trapped humanity in these bodies, but as we read, they started to become aware of what they are through eating of the tree of knowledge. Through eating of the tree of knowledge, they started to become aware, which is a metaphor for raising their consciousness and self-reflecting. They started becoming aware of what they are. And then what did Yaldabaoth do? Yaldabaoth didn't want them eating from the tree of life. He didn't want them becoming eternal. So he set up all these, angels with flaming swords and beasts and terrors around the tree of life so that no one could get to it. And of course, what we know this to mean symbolically is that humans ate from the tree of knowledge, able to gain self-reflection and understanding. Eating from the tree of life is taking that understanding to such a level that one becomes a pneumatic and realizes what they are. And you become, quote unquote, eternal in that aspect because you realize that you are a divine soul that can never die, that you're not this body. According to the Gnostics, that's what they're saying here. So, You have this idea of God wanting to now distract humanity because God is starting to be, not God, humans are starting to become aware of what they are. They ate from the tree of knowledge, they're becoming aware. God wants to distract them. And so you have their angels or their demons teaching humans many errors with magic and potions and idolatry and shedding of blood, killing, and altars and temples and sacrifices and libations, and to all the demons. And you can see this clearly in the Bible, where you have, tons of war and bloodshed. And what's God constantly doing? God is constantly demanding sacrifice. Sacrifices are constantly being made to God. So, this apparently loving God is constantly wanting sacrifice and loves there's a verse that says that the blood of the sacrificed animals are a pleasing aroma to the Lord. And God also accepted a burnt virgin sacrifice in the story of Jephthah's daughter in the Bible. So a lot of bloodthirsty things happening. Anyway, it says, and thus when the world came into being, it wandered astray and in distraction throughout all time. So you can see this idea here symbolically and metaphorically is in order for us to know ourselves, we have to do self-reflection and understanding. And if we're distracted constantly, we aren't going to be able to have the opportunity to self-reflect to reach the highest levels of consciousness. And that's essentially what this is saying. In this story form of an evil being creating distractions is the idea that as souls, for us to obtain knowledge of what we are, we need to be able to do self-reflection and understanding. But if we're constantly distracted, we'll never do that, and we will remain slaves and chained to the material realm. That's what is essentially being said here. Now, it's interesting where it says they have their co-worker fate. So fate is used a little bit in a couple different ways in Gnostic texts. But in some Gnostic texts, fate is looked at as an evil creation of Yaldabaoth or something that Yaldabaoth uses to try and ensnare humanity. And when it's used in that context, fate takes on a different meaning than what we commonly know it to be. In that context, where it's used in the secret book of John, fate means more like the idea of getting locked into a predestined pattern, kind of like people who just go with the motions. That would be someone succumbing to fate in the way it's used in books like the Secret Book of John. Someone just gets locked into a life where one is just going with the motions, not thinking for oneself, as being directed by the flow of the external influences around them. So for all the people who are on the earth served the demons from the creation until the consummation of the age, both the angels of justice and the people of injustice. Thus the world came to be in distraction and ignorance and stupor. So humanity is just distracted in ignorance, not realizing what it is. They all erred until the appearance of the true human. Now, we're going to see that this idea of the true human is going to be associated with Christ. So you have this idea of the world being in distraction and stupor and slumber until this true human comes on the scene. And I like this. It says, enough for you to this point. Next, we shall consider our world, so that we might complete the discussion of its structure and its government in a precise manner. Then it will be clear how belief in hidden things, which have been apparent from the foundation of the consummation of the age, came about. So he's saying, and enough for you at this point. You've heard enough. You've heard enough of this story. So at this point, we're making a switch where previously in this book on the origin of the world, it was all about the events that preceded creation and part of creation as well. Everything that preceded creation and the creation of humanity and the Garden of Eden, etc. And who the archons are and the state that humanity is in. Now it's saying, all right, we're making a switch. And the switch that they're making is saying, now let's consider the world as it is now. Like, let's consider the world now, like what's going on. We're switching from the past to the present. Would have been the present at the time that it was written, but the present is what they're switching to now. And now this is very, very interesting. It says, now I come to the main points about immortal humankind. So remember, humans are immortal. Not bodies, but humans as souls are immortal. I shall explain why the beings belonging to the immortal human are here. When a multitude of people came into being through Adam, who was fashioned, and from matter, And when the world was filled, the rulers reigned over it. That is to say, they held it in ignorance. So the rulers fashioned Adam, and from Adam came the human race, and now you have God and his angels, or the evil rulers and the archons, reigning over humanity. And they ruled over it, and they held it in ignorance. What is the cause? It is this. Since the immortal Father, now who's the immortal Father? The immortal Father in Gnosticism is the true God. So there is a highest supreme being that is infinitely more powerful than the God of the Bible. And this supreme being that they're calling the immortal Father, also it's been called the One, or the Great Invisible Spirit, is essentially a singular mind of divine light. And we are all, quote unquote, sons of the living Father. I don't like, using gendered language like that, but that's how Jesus describes it in the Gospel of Thomas, and it's described like that in certain places. So we are all part of this God of light. That's what we are. We are all these pieces of this God of light. And that's why the God of the Bible, Yaldabaoth, is so afraid of us and terrified of us, because we're much more powerful than him. And so it says, since the immortal Father, the One, the divine mind, knows that the deficiency of truth came into being among the eternal realms and their worlds, when he wanted to bring to naught the rulers of destruction by means of their fashioned creatures, he sent your likenesses, namely the blessed guileless spirits, down to the world of destruction. All right, this is really cool. So listen to this. This is great. This is really interesting. So the divine mind knew that the deficiency of truth, the lack of truth, came into being. Lies were being spread. And so this divine mind wanted to negate or get rid of the rulers of destruction. They wanted to, the divine mind wanted to destroy the God of the Bible and his angels by means of their fashioned creatures, meaning he wanted to do it through the bodies that the God of the Bible created. So the divine mind goes, hey, look, there's a bunch of lies being spread. These are evil beings. I want to destroy them through their own creation, through the bodies that they have created. It says, so in order to do this, he sent your likenesses, namely the blessed guileless, blessed little guileless spirits, down to the world of destruction. So essentially, this book is saying, you are messengers of the divine light. Now, of course, this doesn't apply to everyone, but it would apply to those who are achieving gnosis. So let's continue here to make this a little more clear. It says, they are not strangers to knowledge, for all knowledge is an angel who appears before them, who stands in front of the Father and is not powerless to give them knowledge. Immediately, whenever they appear in the world of destruction, they will reveal the pattern of incorruptibility for condemnation of the rulers and their powers. This is such a cool idea. So basically, this is talking about the idea of souls being incarnated into material bodies for the purpose of spreading knowledge. These souls go down to the world of destruction. Now, it doesn't necessarily say that they are in material bodies, but we can infer that that is the case, or interpret it. And they go down to the world, and they are knowledgeable. And what do? They reveal the pattern of incorruptibility for condemnation of the rulers and their patterns. So basically, they're teaching. They're teaching to show the rulers are evil. They're showing truths about the real realm, powers of incorruptibility, the pattern of incorruptibility. They're showing truths of the incorruptible realm, the true realm, the pure realm, talking about the truths of the ultimate reality, to show that the God of darkness and destruction and the material world is to be condemned. Moreover, when the blessed ones appear in the fashioned bodies of the authorities, it does, yeah. So it does directly say that they incarnate as bodies. So when they appear in the fashioned bodies of the authorities, they are envied. And because of the envy, now this is weird, but here, and because of the envy, the authorities mixed their seed with them to defile them, but they were not able. Okay, so that's kind of gross. But what's going on here, what this means, by the rulers are mixing their seed with them in an attempt to defile them, but they were not able to, essentially means that they were trying to corrupt them to tie them to the material world. They were trying to defile them so that they would be trapped in the material world. And we can understand this metaphorically in a variety of ways, such as perhaps very advanced minds that have localized or incarnated as avatars to help humanity move forward, who have become distracted by the world. You've become distracted by the world and to such a degree where you forgot what you are, where you are, and why you're here, and now you're not fulfilling your purpose. So anyway, the evil beings are trying to defile them, to tie them to the world of the matter, but they're not able to. Moreover, when the blessed ones appear in their light, they appeared distinctively. And each one from their land revealed their knowledge to the assembly that appeared in the fashioned bodies of destruction. So they're teaching humanity. It says they're all distinct, and they all have separate knowledge, and they are teaching this knowledge to the fashioned bodies of destruction. They're teaching to humans, to humanity, to humans that are in bodies. The assembly was found to have every seed because of the seed of the authorities that was mixed with it. So, again, they're just emphasizing that they're teaching bodies, the souls that have incarnated in bodies that have been tied to the material realm. Okay? So, now we get to Jesus, finally. Now we get to Jesus. Then the Savior made all of them one. So now we have the Savior coming onto the scene. Jesus Christ coming onto the scene. Then the Savior made all of them one. And the spirits of these appeared, being superior and blessed, but varying in election. And many others are kingless and superior to everyone who was before them. Consequently, 4 races exist. There are 3 that belong to the kings of the 8th heaven, but the 4th race is kingless and perfect above them all. For these will enter into the holy place of their Father, and they will reside in rest and eternal ineffable glory and ceaseless joy. They are already kings, immortal within the mortal realm. They will pass judgment on the gods of chaos and their powers. Real quick, because I don't want to spend too much time on this because I want to get to Jesus, which is what we're talking about here. They're just explaining that there's, again, different levels of minds, different levels of understanding, different levels of souls. And they're saying that there's a bunch of different ones, and some of them are higher than others, more advanced than others. But the highest is from a kingless realm, kingless and perfect. And it's the highest realm, and it's kingless and perfect basically because they are all kings. So it's this idea that when you're at the highest level, it's a realm of no kings, or a realm where you're all kings. However you want to put it, it amounts to the same thing because you're all at the highest level. And these are the ones that will pass judgment on the gods of chaos and their powers. Yaldabaoth, the evil archons. So it says, Jesus the Logos, now the Word, Christ, who is more exalted than anyone, he was sent for this work only to announce what is unknown. So it says, he said, there is nothing hidden that will not appear, and what was unknown will be known. So what's going on? What is Jesus Christ here to do? First of all, it said that he united those spirits that were incarnating as one. So the first thing that Christ does is basically unite all of those souls who are here to help humanity move forward. He's there to unite them and to announce what is unknown to become known, and that there is nothing hidden that will not appear, and what was unknown will be known, to reveal truth, the great revealer of truth, the great revealer of knowledge. And Christ is called the Logos, or the Word, and Logos means word, and it's also been associated with reason as well. So you have this idea of knowledge, reason, understanding being promulgated by Christ. So according to this book and Gnosticism in general, most versions of Gnosticism, Jesus Christ is coming as a being from the divine mind, and so is not the son of the creator God of the Bible, not the son of the God of that God, but the son of the living Father, the mind of divine light. And Christ's mission isn't to die for your sins so that God won't send you to hell, it's an extremely weird thing to think about. Have you ever thought about it? We get used to hearing these stories and we become numb and desensitized to them, but it's an extremely strange thing to hear. God says that he is going to send his son to be tortured and die so that he doesn't have to torture you for eternity. It's just a whole very strange thing, clearly an evil being. However, it's being said here that Jesus Christ doesn't come from that God at all. Jesus Christ comes from the higher, immortal, living Father, and is not asking for worship or for you to die for your sins or anything like that. And it's not about faith. It's about knowledge. It's about understanding, where Christ is a teacher here to show you that you are divine. And in this way, in the Gnostic interpretation, Christ's role and archetype is like that of Lucifer's, where Lucifer's role as that archetype of the liberator who told humanity that they can become like God if they eat from the tree of knowledge, you have Christ saying that you can be divine or realize your divinity when you look inside and know thyself. And in the secret book of John, it's outright said, Jesus says, I was the one in the garden who caused Adam and Eve to eat from the tree. So you have Jesus Christ as the liberator, who is opposed to the evil creator God of the Bible. And it says, now these were sent so they might reveal what is hidden and expose the seven authorities of chaos and their impiety. So basically you have Christ coming, who is seen as a one to unite the highly conscious individuals and to expose the chaos and impiety of the world and bring knowledge to existence. It says, and they were condemned to be killed. So when all the perfect ones appeared in the fashioned bodies of the rulers and revealed incomparable truth, they put to shame every wisdom of the gods, and their fate was discovered to be condemnable. Their powers dried up, their dominion was destroyed, and their forethought and their glory became empty. So again, this is really cool. You have Christ as sort of this leadership role, uniting these individuals together. And it says, and when the perfect ones appeared in the fashioned bodies of the rulers, and what are perfect ones? Perfect ones are those who have achieved gnosis or knowledge. Perfect ones are simply the humans who have understood what they are and they realize that they are divine. So you have, this spreading of knowledge through Christ and all the other individuals who are here to spread knowledge, and the perfect ones, when they come into the fashioned bodies and reveal their incomparable truth, they put to shame every wisdom of the gods. And that's, so cool. I love this idea of when you have individuals who are highly conscious and they begin to teach, they put to shame even the wisdom of the gods. And this is this beautiful theme within Gnosticism, is about how powerful humans are, that they are eternal, that they are God, that they are divine, and they are much more powerful than these gods of destructions and chaos. They put them to shame, their powers dry up, their dominion was destroyed, and their forethought and their glory became empty. And we can understand this as, this is why I say that we together are the second coming of Christ, because we together are here to liberate humanity. And it's not about a single person, it's about a collective, us, to spread information, to raise the consciousness of humanity so that we can understand what we are and transform this dark world of destruction into a beautiful world of light and prosperity, where we're increasing the quality of life for every individual and the collective. That's why we want to create a teleocratic planetary civilization. So you can see a lot of ideas here coming together, and we can understand where we are in the world through these ideas, where we are here to transform humanity. Now, and that's an important thing to realize, is that this is a collective awakening that's occurring right now, and through us, through you, through me, through all of us. So this is up to us to engage and enact in this spreading of knowledge, and to put to shame even the wisdom of the gods, which is what we do when we spread this information and spread the truth of the incorruptible realms, or the patterns of the incorruptible realms. And of course, what are we doing? We're showing the mathematical nature of reality, how reality is built from frequencies and waveforms and mathematical patterns. We're showing the patterns of the incorruptible realms. This is precisely what we are doing here. So this is all about us and what we do here on Earth. Of course, this is all metaphorical, and we have to remember that. That's very important. But from an underlying archetypal perspective, there's a lot to learn here. So now, when we let's turn a minute to the Gospel of Judas. Because in the Gospel of Judas, we hear that this idea, again, that Jesus Christ does not come from the God of the Bible. And it's a lot more explicit here. It says here, one day when Jesus was with his disciples, he found them sitting together, practicing their piety. When he came to his disciples sitting together, praying over the bread, he laughed. And the disciples said to him, "Master, why are you laughing at our prayer? What have we done? This is what's right." Jesus answered and said, "I'm not laughing at you. You're not doing this because you want to, because through this, your God will be praised." So they're praying over their bread. Jesus laughs at them and they go, "Why are you laughing at us?" And he goes, "I'm laughing at you because you don't really want to be doing this right now. You're just doing this because it's to praise your God." And they said, "Master, you are the Son of our God." And Jesus said to them, "How do you know me? Truly I say to you, no generation of the people among you will know me." And see, this is the really cool idea where the disciples are actually worshiping the evil god, Yaldabaoth. In the Gospel of Judas, he's called Saklas. So they have multiple names, Yaldabaoth, Saklas, Nebro, Samael. Saklas means fool. Samael means the blind god. Nebro means rebel. Sometimes they're looked at as like a dualistic entity. It gets a little complicated. But anyway, Jesus is saying, that's your God. And they say, "You're the Son of our God." And he says, "You don't know me." So he's directly saying, well, not directly, but indirectly saying, "I'm not the Son of your God." And it says, when the disciples heard this, they started to be angry and furious and started to curse him in their hearts. But when Jesus noticed their ignorance, he said to them, why are you letting your anger trouble you? Has your God within you and his stars become angry with your souls? If any of you is strong enough among humans to bring out the perfect humanity, stand up and face me. And see, this is really cool. Do you see a lot of the parallels that are that from what we read on the origin of the world and in the Gospel of Judas here? It says, so first of all, the disciples are getting angry and they're cursing Jesus in their hearts. And when Jesus noticed their ignorance, remember, do you see this theme of ignorance in the gospel, in the Gnostic Gospels? It's not all this talk about sin. It's about knowledge versus ignorance, light versus darkness, knowledge versus ignorance, knowledge versus ignorance. You'll see that theme repeated again and again and again. So they say that when Jesus noticed their ignorance, he's saying to them, why are you letting your anger trouble you? Has your God, again, referring to Yaldabaoth, and his stars, his archons, become angry with you? If any of you is strong enough among humans to bring out the perfect humanity, stand up and face me. And what did we just read on the origin of the world? It said when the perfect humans arise in the fashioned bodies, they will begin teaching wisdom beyond the wisdom of the gods, and the archons, Yaldabaoth, the god, and all his angels will be destroyed, and their powers will be dried up, and they will be no more. So Jesus is saying, if any of you are powerful enough, strong enough to bring out the perfect humanity, because remember, Christ is there to teach and to unite those who want to teach as well, to get others to understand and ultimately actualize that quote-unquote perfect humanity. Perfect humanity meaning those who have achieved gnosis and knowledge of what they are. And so he's saying, if any of you can do this, if any of you are strong enough among humans to bring out the perfect humanity, stand up and face me. All of them said, we're not strong enough. But their spirits weren't brave enough to stand. Oh, I'm sorry. No. All of them said, we're strong enough. They said that. All of them said, we're strong enough. But their spirits weren't brave enough to stand before him. So Jesus said, stand up and face me. And they all said, well, we're strong enough. But they couldn't stand before him. Except Judas. Except Judas Iscariot. He was able to stand before him. But he couldn't look him in the eye, so he looked away. Judas said to him, I know who you are and where you've come from. You've come from the immortal realm of Barbelo, and I'm not worthy to utter the name of the one who sent you. And it's very, very cool. So Judas goes, I know who you are and where you've come from. You've come from the immortal realm of Barbelo. So the immortal realm of Barbelo is the realm of divine light. So the one is the realm of light. Barbelo is like the great mother. It's the first emanation of the one. If the one is the father, Barbelo is the mother. And then from the father and the mother, you have the son. And these are all conceptual categories of understanding. It's not literal, like the father isn't actually a father and the mother isn't actually a mother, and the son isn't literally a son. It's that the son comes from the father and the mother as the father and the mother interact. You can kind of have like you can think of the father as sort of like thought or mind, and the mother is sort of like thinking. And when the father and the mother interact, or thought thinks about itself, self-awareness, or the son, arises from that. So you have this sort of trinity of the father, the mother, and the son being sort of like thinking, thought, and then self-thinking thought. Gnosticism is very cool. It's very smart. All these different characters have representations of the psyche and are structures of the mind. So he says, you come from the immortal realm of Barbelo. He's saying, I know who you are. I know where you've come from. You've come from the immortal realm of Barbelo, and I'm not worthy to utter the name of the one who sent you. And this is, of course, the one who sent you is the great invisible spirit. Interestingly, it's also called, sometimes it's called the Great Virgin Spirit. Just want to throw that out there because it's kind of a cool idea. And the reason why it's called the Virgin Spirit is because it's continuously creating, but it needs nothing external to create. It creates from itself. So it's a virgin in that, if you're thinking metaphorically, sex requires two people to create. And the one, even though there is the mother and the father and the mother's interaction brings forth the son, etc., they're not separate entities. They're all from the same root, from the same seed, from the same center, from the same mind. So the great invisible spirit, the ineffable one, the great virgin spirit is this idea of this unified, singular mind that creates from itself by exploring its internal patterns. And it says, then Jesus, knowing what he was thinking about, knowing that he was thinking about what's exalted, what's good, said to him, come away from the others and I'll tell you the mysteries of the kingdom. Not so that you'll go there, but you'll grieve much because someone else will replace you to complete the 12 elements before their God. Judas said to him, when will you tell me these things? And when will the great day of light dawn for the generation? And then so the Gospel of Judas continues by Jesus basically talking to Judas about these secret divine realms. And it's very, very cool. There's a lot of different interpretations about the Gospel of Judas and who Judas is in terms of Jesus and Judas's interaction. A lot of Gnostic scholars will say that Judas is a hero in this. I don't interpret that at all. In my opinion, it's very, very clear that Judas is still an extreme adversary of Jesus. This is why Jesus says, I'll tell you about this, but not because you'll go there, but because you're going to grieve because you'll never get to go there, essentially. And there's a lot of indications that Jesus and Judas are enemies in this. And in my opinion, it seems like that Judas is actually a incarnation or extension of Yaldabaoth, the evil creator god. It seems there's some good indication that, in my opinion, it looks like that. So you can see from the Gospel of Judas that Jesus Christ, again, is not from the God of the Bible, but an adversary of the God of what would become the Bible, and is in fact a god from the realm of Barbelo, the immortal realm of divine light, the perfect, incorruptible realm. And again, what is Jesus talking about here? Talking about bringing about the perfect humanity, bringing out the perfect humanity. So according to Gnosticism, Christ's role is not as a savior figure that you need to worship as God, who is the son of the God of the Bible, but rather in Gnosticism, the role of Christ is a divine soul that incarnated to teach humanity, to unite humanity, to bring about highly conscious individuals so that they can, continue to talk to humanity as well. And so in Gnosticism, Christ is not a being that you have to worship or you're going to go and burn in the pits of hell. Rather, Christ is simply a teacher, someone to teach you to look within and know yourself so that you can realize your divinity and that you are sons of the living Father, that you are like Christ. That's what it means, that when you are like Christ, it doesn't mean like, oh, well, I have to be a good person and go to church on Sundays. You are like Christ means that you are what Christ is. We all are. All of us are. And those who realize it and embody it are those of us who go out to try and make the world a better place. It's really not a crazy concept. It should be obvious, but this world is so twisted and backwards that you end up with a humanity that's worshiping the evil creator god that wants to burn and torture humans for eternity, rather than understanding that they need to look within and realize that they have the power within themselves. Now, on the origin of the world, we next week, we are going to read the last part of On the Origin of the World, and it's all about the apocalypse and the end of the world, and it's very, very cool. So next week, we will be discussing the apocalypse and the end of the world. Now, if you want to know more about the Gospel of Judas, by the way, I have a whole playlist on my channel where I went through the entirety of the Gospel of Judas. It's very good. So check it out if you're interested more in Judas and Christ and their role and their interaction. It's their kind of interaction is very interesting. I recommend it. Go check it out. But as always, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, please hit like and subscribe so that we can share this information, spread this information around. Remember, we are here to transform the world. We are here to create a neogenesis, a new beginning right here, right now. Also, remember, if you enjoy my work, consider supporting on Patreon. It helps out a lot. You get access to all of our members-only videos and a new members-only video every single week. You can access that by joining any tier on Patreon or hitting the join button below here on YouTube, tier 2 or higher. And as always, remember, don't feel obligated to donate or send, become a member, or don't feel obligated to do anything monetarily. There are plenty of free ways you can support, like liking and subscribing. Only do it if you feel good about it and want to. Big shout out to everyone who does support, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, the Halloween Mom, DB, Enki, Nusalina, Paul Rogers, Eric, Fire, Masam, Christopher, and everyone else. Thank you very much.